Shortly before the election in Honduras got stalled, remember during the election, there was a situation where there was an announcement that there had been a pause in the vote counting. And in the course of that, there were protests. And at some point, the protests got violent. And one of the things that happened when it got violent is that there had been an order from Orlando Hernandez that the police could engage in a specific kind of tactic as a form of crowd control, and he was authorizing them to use violence, and the police were refusing. There was several days where the police were refusing to respond to the protesters as if they were hostile or as if they were the kind of threat that necessitated an escalation or the use of violence. But it persisted, and things got dragged out, and they got more and more escalated. And then there started being reports that the police had engaged in violence against the protesters. And the thing is, I was in Houston. I was on the streets, So I mean, but I was automatically connected to these currents that were identifying very, very large. Let's put this way: subcontracts in the making and other ones that were rolling over. And there was a period of time where I was correlating public notices on specific kinds of technology associated with this specific company with public notices on the murders of political activists and radio journalists in Honduras. And it was that precise. And if I evaluated another technology line or another product line, I could correlate that with a certain name association. And if I looked at one other kind of product line or technology development, it correlated with another name association. This name would keep appearing in one place or another as being the target. And this is what I was, you know, running. This is what I was doing. I was on the street, but what I was being like, what was going on concurrent to my life was stimulating me to look this up online, to do this, because it was like tormenting me. And I'm like, well, I have to make sense of what's tormenting me. And it made sense. I'm like, it made precise sense. And there were other deals that were pending at the time. And in the course of this happening, I went and I did this thing I do where being the mandated reporter. What is it when you have an alert? Like in cybersecurity, I'm learning more and more about this. In cybersecurity, you have an alert, so you report. But they don't see it that way, right? You go there and they basically want to close the deal with you committing to a pharma script. But short of that, I'd already done this research. And so around the time when that pause hit in the election, I was like, oh, really? And then when the police were like, no, we're not going to escalate, I knew that there was some sort of big, big, big time currency running on that particular election. And so there needed to be a riot. The riot was needed in order to justify other pending appropriations connected to that company's product lines, but also because that company is a supplier of other companies. And they have product lines that are contingent upon things going for that particular company. And that company had a board member who had been arrested ostensibly for leaking national security secrets. But before he had been arrested, he had just formed a special capital company with another member of the board of directors. And once he got arrested, things in his life changed. And my allegation was that he had been set up and intentionally put in prison because when you're in prison, there's a completely different kind of capital asset available to people, including in connection with R&D, and that they wanted to keep him and whatever had gone into him being assigned specifically to that particular capital venture, because he would be the prison pole, the one who had been stripped and had been put in prison so that he would be subjected to that part of the capital venture. And then his other colleague, who was also a board member but had not been put in prison, had the good, exceptional, stellar executive record, would be put on the other pole. Now, that's part one.